Good. So, do you want to kick off, mate?
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah. Right.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for the NHVR Portal webinar for release 7.4.0, which will be released this afternoon on the 20th of May. I'm Steve Ryan, Product Analyst with the Digital Products Group, and I'm joined by John Barry, the Product Manager for the Digital Products Group. Hi, John.
Hey, Steve.
And here we are again. I'm working from home still. So we'll go through a quick overview of the agenda, a bit of housekeeping. John will give a quick overview about the highlighted features and then a short demo. Then we'll give an update on the portal roadmap for 2020 and then close out with details about the next webinar and important contact information if you have any other questions. So as I said, I'm Steve Ryan, Product Analyst for Digital Products Group, joined by John Barry, who is the Product Manager for the Digital Products Group. The format is we'll do a quick overview of the important features that are coming out in today's release for 7.4.0 and then a short demonstration. Then we can talk about the roadmap for the remainder of 2020 and also some follow-up help information if you have any other questions after watching this webinar. I'll pass over to John to cover off the features for this release.
Thanks, Steve. So release 7.4 has really been more of a focus for access from features for customers and road managers. There's been a couple of things that related to the New South Wales return of delegations to the NHVR, which sees more permits that were being handled by the New South Wales Road Authority, now handled by NHVR Access Permit Team. There has, of course, continued to be work on vehicle standards and accreditation, and we're happy to go through some of the accreditation work that is underway at the moment in the next release. So for access, the first feature is around the New South Wales 7-tonne request on steer axles. That's referring to the multi-state Class 1 load carrying vehicle mass exemption notice 2020 for New South Wales. This feature is twofold. One provides an ability for operators to declare that they want to operate and request the 7 tonnes on the steer axle for New South Wales roads. Secondly, it then makes that visible, very much visible to the road managers, obviously particularly for the New South Wales road managers, but in the back end for the access permit team, it also automates the allocation of 2 relevant vehicle conditions to that permit application. So that's the first feature I'm going to go through in demo. The second feature is something that we've had a look at previously before. It's start travel and finish travel fields for single or multi-trip permits. We've made some progress on this and we'll be releasing this as part of the release 7.4 today. Customers can now record the trips they've made and essentially form a travel record history. This allows for a number of things. Probably importantly, again, it's something that becomes immediately visible to road managers, both on issued permits. So as soon as those travel records are recorded, everyone with access to the permit, so we'll be able to see that. And for operators, it means that there's the added advantage of being able to renew the single multi-trip permits well before the permit expiry. So if all of the trips have been completed, before this new feature is rolled out, the requirement was to essentially contact the NHVR to let us know that the permit had been consumed, and then we would bring back the expiry date so that you could submit a renewal application with the 6-week rule that was stopping that. Now, upon completing the travel records, you'll be able to generate a renewal application, and that permit expiry date will automatically come back to a minimum of 6 weeks. So that will allow you to then submit those renewals without having to rely on contacting one of our access facilitators to help manually change that for you. Of course, the travel history records is not just for the first issue, the permit on renewals. The existing history remains there. So not only does it provide one place to capture that history for operators, but it provides those road managers who would like to be able to see that travel history, get access to that. And from our consultation with road managers, by being able to have that access, it means that there'll be more. We're looking for more willingness to renew those permits and provide even more trips on those permits. So I think it's a good win all round. But first of all, like I said, we'll have a look at the 7-ton steer check request. So I'm going to flick over to my browser now. Okay, so I'm in in our test environment as a National Heavy Vehicle Regulator. What I'm going to do is just kick off a new application. I'll just put the New South Wales 7-ton test. So this only applies to overmass or oversize and overmass applications. So I will kick off an oversize overmass application. Now I'll tick just overmass only in this particular instance. And when I go to start entering out my vehicles, and then I go into the steer on actual group 1 of the primary component, you'll see that there's this new checkbox here, New South Wales 7-ton steer. So what I've done here is I've entered in a vehicle. It's brought through actual information. With the New South Wales 7-ton steer, as soon as I tick that and declare that I want to request that, you'll see this note come up here, which is a note that will be visible to road managers about the request and what notice the request relates to. What also happens is the actual group mass here becomes locked down, so you can no longer edit that, and it will be fixed to 6 tonnes. So the permit will still be issued with 6 tonnes, but this checkbox will appear for New South Wales roads, and it will allow, as long as the conditions are met on that notice, for operating at 7 tonnes on the steer for those New South Wales roads. Now, there's a few other features that are built in just to ensure that this checkbox is relevant, and the main one of those is the route. So obviously this particular request only relates to New South Wales roads. So what happens if I try to request roads that are outside New South Wales? So if I just did a route between Melbourne within Victoria, obviously none of the roads there will be within New South Wales. So if I jump back to my vehicle now, what you'll see is that option is completely disappeared, and it's been effectively reset. So obviously in the natural flow of things, where you've declared that you're going to use or request the New South Wales 7-ton on the steer, it obviously only applies to New South Wales roads, so we'd assume that the route would be New South Wales. As long as the route can cross between state borders, but as long as there's roads within New South Wales on the route that you plot, that option will still stay. So if I change that now, and let's just move that back into New South Wales, and I go back and I check, you'll see it's now appeared. In this case, because I've plotted a route already that's been solely within another state, it's deselected everything, so I've reselected it there. When I go to the routes, one additional thing that makes it even more clear, because this is a route-based type of request, on the confirm, what you'll see is an automatically populated road note, which is that declaration, again, becomes visible to road managers. And on the route summary, effectively what will be on the permit for this particular route is again another declaration that should the permit application be approved, that access will be granted for the following sections of route up to 70 tonnes on the steer axle. So that should hopefully make it a lot easier to make the request, and from a road manager and from a access facilitator point of view in NHVR, what you'll see on these permits, if you are a road manager, is at the top here there'll be a flag saying that New South Wales 7-tonne steer axle is applied, and on the route details you'll see the route notes will include that information as well. And that will also be populated onto the permit when it's issued. Okay, so that's the first feature to walk you through. The next feature is around the travel records. So this information is for issued permits. Save that guy there. So we've got an example here of a permit, and this only applies to single trip and multi-trip permits. So in this particular instance, I have a single trip permit, and if I have a look at my permit here, what you'll see is travel records. So I've gone crazy and put some crazy notes in here, but what I can do here is within the dates of my permit, so this has been issued from the 14th of May through to the 17th of May 2022, I can start recording the trips. So I had a trip that started on the day that I issued the permit, completed on the 18th. Now this was a trip from a previous permit. So this permit's now been renewed to version 2, and it's kept that history of the previous trip I recorded, and now has opened up a new travel record for me. So for that one, I can enter the dates and save that. Now, as soon as I've done that, the permit action here, apply for renewal, becomes available. From now on, for multi or single trip permits, if the travel records haven't been filled out, so if I had 5 trips on this particular permit, if I haven't completed all of those 5 trips, then the apply for renewal will be disabled on the basis that those travel trips need to be recorded. And that's important because once all the trips are recorded there, I can, when I go to apply for renewal, the renewal application will be generated, and this permit end date will automatically be set to 6 weeks from today's date, which effectively means that I can then renew the permit. If current or previously, when you went to renew a multi-trip permit or even a single trip permit, and the end date was still several months or even years from the current date, you'd be trapped in the 6-week rule, where permit renewals can only be submitted where they're within 6 weeks of the expiry. So by providing this feature and being able to trigger a renewal that automatically brings the permit end date back to within that 6 weeks, effectively allows me now as an operator to submit that renewal application without having to contact the NHVR. Not only that, because we have new features within the portal that allow for automated processing of a number of renewal types, where my permit falls within those rules, and I have, for example, consents that are already provided for the new renewal period that I'm looking for. That renewal automation kicks in, and as soon as consents come back, my permit becomes issued. And so this is just an extension of trying to enable more operators, particularly those using the single or multi-trip permits, to access those new automation features. Okay, so that's all of the demos. Switch back to our slides now. And we'll have a little bit of a discussion about the roadmap for 2020. As you can see, we continue to work on access permit workflow automation and continue to do that in this release and in releases to follow in the next couple of months. We're also working on some of the other workflows. In the last release, we did introduce internal review workflows. For those that have submitted internal review requests, you'll have seen some of that now being dealt with exclusively in the portal, with all of the automation features that are offered with that. Accreditation vehicle standards, we've now moved out of the MVP, we call it, so that's the minimum viable product stage, and we're in a maintenance mode for those two service lines. That maintenance mode is not just bug fixes, it's also a program of minor functional improvements. You will see in the next release some more information about the automation we're doing with advanced fatigue management certificates, enabling our accreditation team to be able to automatically generate those certificates moving into the future. With vehicle standards, we also have a number of minor improvements that are looking to improve the vehicle standards engineer workflow and improve the experience for consultation as well, up to the jurisdictions when we go for consultation, all in an effort to streamline those workflows and get the vehicle standards exemptions or modifications or in principle support documents out to operators as quickly as possible. Our main focus, of course, is PBS, and we're now into the first phase, really, after our discovery piece of work, where we've really gone and had a real look at the various problems and opportunities surrounding the performance-based standard scheme, particularly obviously from a system perspective. And the first phase now is to deliver an online submission channel. We've begun a number of engagement and consultation workshops with PBS assessors and certifiers, and we continue to work on a program of engagement in that area, as PBS assessors and certifiers will be in the first instance the key users for the initial round of functionality for PBS, and that's providing that online submission channel. So that will be quickly followed by case tracking functionality. So that will begin to provide visibility of the progress of whether it's design approval applications or vehicle approval applications and how they're tracking, including how that's tracking with the PRP panel and their responses. And then closer to the end of the calendar year, we'll be looking for a fully online digitised smart form for design approvals and vehicle approvals. But probably more importantly, from a PBS assessor and certifier perspective, it's the ability to automatically import information from various range of systems, where that information, from, for example, a certification perspective, is already being recorded by certifiers in digital format, whether that's through software systems, including spreadsheets or even more advanced web applications. We don't want to have to re-enter that information or force assessors or certifiers to re-enter information that's already been captured digitally. So we've got a real strong focus with PBS on being able to provide facilities to import that information in a very streamlined way, which ultimately means that we'll get a lot more detailed information as part of those applications, which we can then provide back in terms of vehicle approvals on top of a wealth of deep data on a design approval, and get that information out to probably where it's most required. One of the biggest problems that we're looking to attack over a series of phases here is really improving the access outcomes for PBS, and one of the key ways we'll be doing that is getting information out to road managers who are ultimately making the consent decisions around access for these new fitted vehicles. And we've had good response from road managers, even just some very simple information that can be searched or tracked from a consent history perspective against PBS applications and PBS access permits. Will go a great deal to helping accelerate that process for them. And as we get past the smart forms phase into the next calendar year, we'll be looking to focus on engineering and automatic generation of approval documents. So automatic generation of the design approval and the vehicle approvals, and then almost instantly making that available from an access permit application perspective as well. So that's an overview where we're at, tracking pretty much against the plan there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, John. Thanks for an informative overview about what's coming out in today's release for 7.4.0, plus the features that we can look to coming in the second half of the year. As you can see on the screen there, you can see some details around different ways to contact us. There's email address, phone numbers. There's also the Help Centre online. We'll be having another webinar in June 2020. We will announce the date. It'll be roughly